He said, Nobby, we sold you to Brighton today. And I went, what? And all the lads on the coach down from Stoke to London knew that I'd been sold apart from me. The chairman needs the money, it's 30 grand, and you've got to go. Stretch limo waiting for me outside. I thought, I'm into a new world here now at Brighton. And I stretched limo to the Metropole, where Peter Taylor was waiting for me, and then we did the talks there, and from then on, obviously at Brighton. I was on £60 a week at Port Vale, and he offered me £100 a week, which is like a figure then, £100 a week, and a 10 grand signing on fee over 2.5 years. So I rang the PFA. What do I ask for? Ask for 120 and ask for 15 grand signing on fee. So I'm going to see him on the Thursday morning now, and deadline day is that tea time. I said, well, what about £120 a week then and £15? And he went, I'll get the ticket for you to go back to Port Vale and just go back. I went, where's the contract?
Brian, thank you very much for coming and joining us on the podcast. I understand you're in Brighton because of a Legends Night last night. Who were you on stage with? Mark McGee, Bobby Zamora, Steve Foster and Gary Chivers. How was that?
It was absolutely fantastic. When we walked out the theatre, I thought it was just the bottom tier. And then when they put the lights on off at the break, it was like every tier was sold out. And it was fantastic. So we did the questions were thrown at us, and then we did a little bit of our own, and it was a great night. So it recalls all the memories, doesn't it? And they were fantastic memories.
So they've warmed you up for us today.
Yeah.
And we've just been sat here talking, and you said about there's a famous story with Vera Lynn next door. We're at the museum today, aren't we? We've got a different recording, but you said over at the Pavilion there was a memorable night with Vera Lynn.
Yeah, I was captain at the time. Laura was the superstar. Wardy was the guy that was scoring all the goals, Peter Ward. And the three of us got invited down to start a carol, to sing a carol. So I was first up being captain. I've never been so nervous in all my life. It was packed out, and I've got to sing the first two lines of a carol, and then everybody joins in. And then Laura does one, and then Wardy does one. It was a fantastic night, and she was absolutely wonderful lady. It's one of the things that were really, really special in my life, you know, without the football things, but she was fantastic.
Do you care to share the lines now with you again to reminisce, to try and sing it now?
No.
No.
To be fair, I bet it was nerve-wracking getting up first, but once you were done, I bet you were giggling at the other lads.
Oh, once I'd done mine, yeah. Because we're not, like in football, you know what we like, we have a drink and we sing, don't we? But to do that in front of the crowd there, it was very nerve-wracking, you know.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's always like the initiation when you sign for a new club and you have to sing up and sing a song. It's literally 30 seconds, and the amount of times that players just get so nervous and just don't want to do it. So I can imagine in front of those crowds, in front of Vera Lynn, must have been a different prospect altogether.
You must have a good voice.
No, I've got a good voice. And I never put it in my book, so I did a book, and you know, all my career, and I never put that in. Would you believe? I never put that in, which is one of the best nights of my life. You know, my football life. She was a beautiful lady.
Were you a big advocate of getting new boys to sing when you were manager?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Got to sing, haven't you? Loads of footballers, and you're the same. We think we can sing, don't we? But we can't sing, can we?
No, I know I can't sing, and that's why I was reluctant to do it.
Pay the fine.
Yeah, pay the fine.
We're tone deaf, aren't we? We really are hopeless.
Yeah. Take us back to the start. Tell us how you got into football originally, and then we'll get through to your Brighton days.
Well, schoolboy, I played for Cannock Boys, Staffordshire Boys. Didn't quite make the England boys at 15. And then Walsall took me as an apprentice for 2 years, 3 years. So I thought I'd done really well. Second year, I'd broken into the reserves. There was Lee Carsley, who's manager of England 21s. His dad was one of my apprentices, and he was a good player as well. So there's about 18 of us, and there's only 2 of us who got into the reserves that year. And I thought I'd done okay to get the third year. And anyway, Manager Ray Shaw said, I'll give you a lift down to the bus station this afternoon. I thought, that's mighty strange. No, he never gives me a lift. So on the way down, he just said, Brian, we're not retaining you. So I've got to catch 2 buses back home to Cannock. I'm crying my eyes out. You think it's the end of the world, don't you? You know, because you want to be a footballer. So it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because I went on the building. I was very small, slight, went on the building for 4 years, played Friendsford Town, my local team, and it was a good team. So I've gone like from £7 a week to £18, say, on the build at 18 to 20, £6 a game, £4 a win. We were winning games, so that could have been another 20. So all of a sudden, like, I'm like the George Best of Cannock. I've got a fantastic car. I'm my wife, so I have to be careful. And I just love my football. It was one of them. And Port Vale came calling in 1971, and that's how I got back into the league.
And you learned your trade. So what level was Walsall, Hensford, and then Port Vale? What are you talking?
Walsall were third division, the old third division. Hensford were West Midland League.
Right.
And a good side. We won the Staff Senior Cup in my last game against Kidderminster Harriers. That was my very last game before I went to Port Vale in 1971. Gordon Lee was the manager then. It took me there, God bless him.
Do you think that kind of rejection early in your career kind of really helped you later on to become the player that you did?
Yeah, I think it did. Because I thought I would be a pro at Walsall, and I didn't. So I thought, it made me work harder, really. And I love my football. That was the thing about it, because we trained Tuesday and Thursday night, unless we had a midweek game, and then play Saturday. And it was like an old professional league where players that were getting a bit older couldn't join in clubs like Tamworth and Bromsgrove and Kidderminster, and it was a hard league. Yeah. Playing proper men's football that were tough. And we had a good side, so that helped me as well. The fact that we had a good team,
had a good pedigree, and then obviously from Port Vale you found yourself here at Brighton, where would you call it a second home?
What, Brighton?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't describe it. It was just unbelievable years from 76 to 81, and people said when I came here, we'd played. It was Tuesday night, and the deadline days were on the Thursday, and we played Palace away, Port Vale, on the Tuesday night. And before the game, somebody came to me and said, Terry Venables has told me to tell you, don't sign for anybody, he's coming for you in the summer. I thought, that'll be decent. So we drew 2-2. We got in the dressing room, Roy Sproson, God bless him again, who's the manager. He said, sit down. He said, Nobby, we've sold you to Brighton today. And I went, what? We've sold you. He said, and all the lads on the coach down from Stoke to London knew that I'd been sold apart from me. So what do I do? He said, you've got to go. The chairman needs the money, it's 30 grand, and you've got to go. Stretched limo waiting for me outside. I thought, I'm into a new world here now at Brighton. And I stretched limo to the Metropole, where Peter Taylor was waiting for me, and then we did the talks there, and then from then on, obviously at Brighton.
And first impressions of the football club and the city?
Well, we were third division, and there was no playoffs, obviously, then, so it had to be top two, and we missed out. And Peter Taylor left, so I don't know, he made me captain. I'd only played for him 6 games, and then he went back with Brian Clough. He said he was having a break, but he didn't. He went back with Brian Clough. And then Alan Murray took over. And he was a different personality to Peter Taylor completely, the gaffer, because he was a top player. He played for England, World Cups, captain, and I thought, and he's only 34, so I was 27. He was 34. I thought he's coming player manager. I thought, and he's played in my position. I thought my career could be in jeopardy. Anyway, we started the season, pre-season, won every game, gone on, and he retired. He said, I can't get in that team, and he retired. But he was a hard task.
So effectively you retired him? I
retired him. And let me tell you, I remind him every day when I see him.
Is that in the book?
No, I don't put that in the book with him. He'll be on the phone, don't worry about that.
But he made you club captain, and from just reading up on you, it was a reported £100 a week that they were paying you at the time. Well,
Peter Taylor, I was on £60 a week at Port Vale, and he offered me £100 a week, which is like figure then, £100 a week, and a 10 grand signing on fee over 2.5 years. So there's no agents in those days. So I rang, because I was always the PFA delegate at all the clubs I was. So I rang the PFA and said, probably Gordon Taylor, what do I ask for? What shall I do? They said, what they've offered me. He said, well, I asked for 120 and asked for 15 grand signing on fee. I said, okay. So they played Shrewsbury on the Wednesday night, got beat 4-0 at the Golston. So I'm going to see him on the Thursday morning now, and deadline day is that tea time. So I went in and he said, okay. I said, well, what about £120 a week then and £15? And he went, I'll get the ticket for you to go back to Port Vale and just go back if you want to. Or £100 a week, and that's it. And if you do well, I'll look after you. I went, where's the contract?
I'm all been there.
You're not Ross.
Where's the contract? And he 6 games, as I just said, he took us for 6 games, and then he left and went back with Brian Clough, and Mullers took over.
And how was Mullers?
He was a winner. And that's all I can say about him. He demanded things that if you couldn't do, bang, gone. And I was the captain, and if I did anything, he was at me. He was just. I wouldn't say he was a great coach, because the things we used to do in those days are totally different to what you've done and you've done. We trained in Hove Park. Yeah. We played 6-a-side, 7-a-side, in and out the trees.
So,
we've been there as well. We've trained at Hove Park.
But hold on a second. So you train at Hove Park just with like randoms walking around the dogs and stuff?
Yeah, we'd walk up to Hove Park and train there, so we'd warm up.
Obviously from the Goldstone.
From the Goldstone, yeah. Or we'd train in the greyhound track on the grass in the middle. In the middle. So we used to see all the trainers and ask the trainers for any tips and stuff like that.
That's mad, isn't it? Because when you think back at how far the game's come, like every club's got its own training facility now. It's just
yeah, it was way behind in terms of that. Waterall we used to train pre-season.
Yeah, we've done Waterall.
Yeah, we've done that. We've done the hills.
Mickey took us to
Waterall.
Waterall.
Yeah, we've done the hills there.
Yeah.
I've done Hove Park a couple of times.
I've never done Hove Park.
Have you not?
I did Stanmer.
Alan Cork was assistant manager.
We done Stanmer after you got us in trouble.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah, we've been through that one. Alan Cork, Mickey was fuming with us, so we went to Hove Park and Corky went, right, we'll just do 2 laps, and there was a cafe there, so we just all went for a thing. We had to go back, like pretend we had red face and stuff to Mickey. But yeah, Corky saved us that day. But yeah, I just want to ask you. I mean, I'm the era where I kind of did watch Brighton when I was very younger with the Goldstone grounds. The memories that the club have had there in the past, and the fantastic evenings for a player, because I was only there as a fan. What was it like to be a player playing at the Goldstone?
Well, this is what people said to me. Why are you going there? Because the crowds are probably 16, 17, 18,000. That was in the old 3rd division, and as I say, we missed out on promotion that first year. The second year, we should have won the league really, because we were the best side in the league by a mile. And we won it with about 4 games to go, so we were up with about 4 games to go. And I think Mansfield won it, and we murdered them twice. But it was just, so all of a sudden the crowds are going like 18, 20, 25, 30. And people said to me, it's not a football town. And the fans were unbelievable, as you know. They're just incredible fans. For the whole atmosphere of the town, the place, the football club, everything was going that way. Mike Bamber, Tony Bloom's granddad was on the board, Dudley Seisons, Tom Appleby, and it was Las Vegas, and it was just on a different level to clubs that were 3rd division, then a 2nd division club, the things we were doing. And the chairman was unbelievable. He had an office on the Goldstone, and he used to call me Capitano. And I'd see him some mornings and go, "Oh, everything all right, Capitano?" And I'd go, "Could do with a golf day, chairman." And he'd go, "Right, okay, you organise it, all the directors are playing, and we'll have dinner at night and I'll pay for it. So you organise, I'll pay for it." And I just do things like that. So the team spirit amongst from the crowd to the owners to the players to the fans was just, everybody was on the same page,
And you had success when you were here as a player, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great success, and to miss out the following season on goal difference, which was crazy. We had to beat Blackpool on the last Saturday. If Southampton, who were already up, they had Shilton, Keegan, Ball, Worthington, they had an unbelievable side, Southampton. If they beat Tottenham on the Saturday and we beat Blackpool at home, then we're promoted to the top division for the first time in the club's history. And we got a penalty, and Wardy was on the penalties, Peter Ward, 0-0. And he looked at me and he went, "No."
How many had you got already that season when he said no?
I think the first season in the 3rd division, I think he scored 40, didn't he? Or close to 40.
Yeah, he was up
And
there.
what, he's shaking his head, he doesn't want to take the penalty?
Yeah, well, because there's so much on it, wasn't there? Say he'd have missed, and then Southampton beat Tottenham.
Sounds like you.
Come on, man. Miss and not turned it down.
So I scored, and...
Oh, you stepped up, scored?
Yeah, because what we were doing then, I wanted to take him, he wanted to take him. So if he missed one, I was on him. When I missed one, it was back to him. And that's how it worked. So he was on it at that time, but he shook his head and went, "No."
Wow.
So,
It's amazing, isn't it, when you score that many goals and then all of a sudden it's
Pressure
just that...
though,
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, it's amazing
Pressure.
at 12 yards how pressure gets to you massively.
Because you've got to think. Because you've got to think.
Yeah. Well, we heard a roar go around, 30,000 of the Goldstone. We thought Southampton had scored. So if they scored and beat Tottenham 1-0, we're promoted 0-0. No shots on target, no shots at all, 0-0. There you go. I lived at that.
And you missed out that year?
We missed out on goal
By
difference.
Oh.
So that was for the first time in the club. So then you think, that could be the last chance. God, I never played in the top division at all in my career. Yeah. So then you think, that's the last chance, don't you? So the following season, then we had to go to Newcastle on the last Saturday. So we carried on. He was building. Mark Lawrenson, wonderful signing. Steve Foster, great signing. And he was building the team. And then we had to go to Newcastle on the last game of the following season. So if we win at Newcastle, we're promoted. 10,000 fans up to Newcastle, to James's Park, cars, trains, the Seagull Express that we used to have. And we went up on the Wednesday. I thought, why are we going up on the Wednesday, Gaffer? Because we can't play golf. You wanted us to play golf. But anyway, we went up on the Wednesday, calmed us down. 0-0, here we go. And for whatever reason, you look back on your career and think, why did I do that? Because I used to take the corners from the left-hand side in swingers. Gary Williams, the left-back, used to take them from the right wing inside swingers. And I didn't go in at all. I didn't take a corner, I didn't go in. On a third one, I thought, I'm going in on this one. And I go in and scored with a fantastic header.
Rolls like
we believe you.
So we go 1-0 up, 2-0 up, Wardy, 3-0 up, Jerry Ryan, God bless him, and 3-0 half-time. And I used to say to the players, because the gaffer was murder if you went back at him or said something back. So I'd say to them, if he said anything, just accept it. Anyway, he said something. One of the lads went back, and all of a sudden, we're all arguing in the dressing room with 3-0 up. And I said, Gaffer, calm down, for Christ's sake.
3-0 at half
3-0
arguing
at Newcastle, and we're at it. So we go out. They scored a goal. Peter With. He was a good player, wasn't he, with it?
Yeah.
And he scored 3-1, and the nerves started. And anyway, we hung on and won 3-1. So we get promotion to the top league for the first time in the club's history. But then they used to run the Seagull Express, the train. So the train would, no stops, so the fans would get on it to Newcastle, and then on the way back...
No stops?
Never stopped.
From London?
Straight to Newcastle.
Really?
For wherever we were going.
Oh, that's good, that.
Seagull Express, we used to call it the Paralytic Express, because So
on the way back.
So on the way back, we won. We were all on the train, and champagne's flowing. The gaffer, he used to smoke Henry Winterman cigars, and I used to have one occasionally. And if we won, he'd throw me a cigar. If we lost, he wouldn't speak to me. And he was literally like that. So all of a sudden, we were down the train with all the fans, the champagne. We're taking bottles of champagne. We got back to Brighton, and all the fans were waiting for us at the station. And then the following day, people said to me, "It's not a football place." They said that's not a football place. It was absolutely unbelievable times for the football club. So first time ever in the club's history, we were in the top division.
Yeah. So obviously you had spells elsewhere, but eventually you become a manager. Was that always kind of in your psyche? Did you always want to become a manager, or did it something you just kind of fell upon?
No, I actually started my coaching things at Brighton University. They ran from a prelim badge. So I did my prelim badge here when I was playing. So I already had the intention that I wanted to go into coaching or management. When I left Brighton, I went to Luton for 3 years, David Britton. I couldn't have found a better mentor in my life, because compared to the gaffer, I mean, they're both brilliant in the different ways. But David was a proper coach and changed my role. He said, I want you to sit in front of the back four. So we played 4-3-3. Nobody ever did that in those days. So I sat in front of the back three, and we had a great side at Luton. Ricky Hill, Brian Steen, David Moss. And we won the championship by miles. So even then, I was doing a bit of coaching wherever I was and stuff like that. So it was always my intention to get into management, yeah.
And eventually after Hull, you became manager of Hull, didn't you, after playing for them?
I went from Luton, 34, I left, and went to Hull City as player manager. And we got promotion.
Oh, you went as player manager?
Went as player manager, yeah. So we got promotion my first year again. So
good start. How much did you play?
How much did I play?
Yeah.
Oh, I always pick myself.
Did you really?
The lads used to give me a stick because I played in that position again in front. Again, Gaffy, you never move.
So how old had you been then?
30. So I played the first full season, got promotion. I played, so then we like Division 2 then, as it was. So I played quite a few games and then 36, I knew that I couldn't do it anymore. So I gradually, less games.
And then after that, obviously Oxford, Manchester City, Huddersfield, and you found your way back to Brighton.
Yeah.
A very different Brighton.
Yeah, and how was that phone call to, where the club was at that stage? What was being said? Like, you're a man. Like, I can't imagine what the pros were for you to come down and take the job.
It was apparently Liam Brady recommended me to Dick Knight, so thanks for that. And anyway, so he rang me, Dick Knight. I came down and met him, and he's playing in Gillingham.
Yeah,
in fact, every time I come to Brighton, I go past my old house that Peter Ward had, and then I bought it off the club off him, and I drive past that, and I drive past the Golston, and because it had so many memories for me. So now we're playing in Gillingham, and we were taking about 4,000 fans up, which was incredible for taking four. So, see, M23, M25, M2, bottom of the league, or virtually. The reserves are bottom of the league. The youth team's bottom of the league. The whole club was just rubbish.
How did he talk you into taking the job?
Well,
Was it the affinity with the club?
Yes. I think it would have been any
heart overhead sometimes, just
maybe.
Yeah.
But if it had been any other club, I wouldn't have done it. And it was hard because my kids, my wife was in Manchester, and I'm now travelling down Monday morning, down all week, go back home for a couple of nights, back down. We survived. We finished about sixth bottom, survived. So Dick Knight and the board said to me, will you stay? And if it had been at Withdean, I would have had no hesitation but to stay. But doing that again, I thought, I can't do that. So that's what happened. But after I decided to stay, I said to Woody, my assistant, if I stay, I'm going to get 18 out and 18 in. You know the players down here better than me, Jeff Wood. So I put this to Dick Knight and the board. I said, I'm going to sack the reserve team manager. The bottom of the league. I'm going to sack the youth team. I brought Dean Wilkins in.
I wanted to ask you about the youth team because I'm a product from that youth team system. And Dean Wilkins was my manager as a youth team manager. Martin Hinchelwood was there for me as well. So good guys. I mean, it's played such a massive part now. You see, Harry Howe coming through. You see Jack Hinchelwood coming through. But it sounds like you were the instigator to try and start that youth. Because in your youth team under Dean, they had loads of players, didn't we?
When I joined, Dean was obviously first team manager. But I reckon out of the squad, it was like 75% local lads from the academy, which was like, probably. Yeah. I don't think it's been repeated again.
I remember playing Ipswich last day of the championship when we had to stay in the league, and I think 7 of the 11 starters had come through the youth system. Yeah, which is incredible, really. So I just wanted to touch on that.
That's what needed doing, because I said the youth team at the bottom of the league, it was hopeless, the reserves hopeless, first team next to hopeless. So as I said, 18-8, and then we were in the playoff positions and we're doing well, and the reserves are doing better, the kids are doing better because they get better coaching. And Port Vale came, they were sacking. I'm driving back down to Brighton. I called to see a game at Wickham in the afternoon, get a phone call from Port Vale. We're sacking John Rudge, and would you be interested? So obviously I'd been there for 5 years. I said, have you sacked John yet? He said, no. I said, well, don't speak to me then. I don't want to speak to you. He's still in situ and you're speaking to me. I said, no, don't do that. I said, if you sack him, then speak to me and we'll talk it over. And that's what they did. So I went back to Port Vale, and do you know, it was probably one of the hardest decisions in my entire football life, because I love the place, I love the club, and now I'm leaving it. And I didn't particularly want to do that, but my kids were up there, as I said, with twins and everything. So logically, it was the right decision. But the place, last night, the things that we did last night, the whole club, I love coming to watch now. Tony Bloom I speak to occasionally, and the Bloom family there. His granddad was my vice chairman. The whole place here is just incredible.
Yeah, it is. How would you like reflecting on your time as a player and as a manager? How do you look back on it?
I think first of all, getting a free transfer when I was 17 and going into now to do 1,000 games in football as a manager and 2,000 games all in all, which my book was called, 2,000 Games in Life in Football. And there's only 3 of us ever done 2,000 games. That's Alex Ferguson, myself and Graham Turner, who managed Shrewsbury and Aston Villa. So there's only 3 in the history of football that's done 2,000 games. And I look back on my career now and thinking, I got a free transfer and I proved you wrong, and went on to do that. So that was my that was probably my goal, to prove people wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Set that fire.
Yeah, and I was a bit like that. I was a bit naughty, really. But
and just looking at Brighton and how they've progressed, and you playing a part in that progression over the years, how do you look at them now, the modern day Brighton?
Well, as I say, Tony Bloom, I saw him at the Brighton game, Brighton v City game a few weeks back, and actually went down and met Fabian, the manager. Paul Camillion rang me and said I've told Fabian about you. He said he'd like to meet you. Do you fancy coming down for a sandwich and a coffee this afternoon before the game at night? And I said I'd love to come down and meet him. So I went down, met him. A few of the players were around, and found him really, really interesting, really good. And he's getting a bit of flack at the moment, isn't he? Which I think's diabolical, really. It's a top division, and the clubs that up above, they're paying fortunes out, and I mean fortunes and wages. And I think Tony Bloom and his board, Paul Barber, have done a fantastic job. And I think it's a little bit remiss of everybody to be at them at the moment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it is the elite league in the world, isn't it? And to be in it, I think for our football club is fantastic, and for Fabian and the players to be competitive at that level, it's it's not as easy to get into Europe every year as what we'd like.
Yeah,
no, it's not. I mean, you see the results all the time, don't you? And it's so close now.
But you could maybe relate, because you're a young player manager. What Fabian? He's a young manager. You're going to make mistakes, and you're going to learn along the way, really. So was that quite interesting, the conversation with him in terms of the way he sees the game and the advice that you could give him as a young manager?
Well, I didn't particularly give him advice because I don't know whether I could, because he's a good coach, good manager. And that night against City, and we go to City all the time, the teams that come to City could play 4-5-1 or 5-4-1. Sit on the edge of the penalty box. Brighton didn't do that. Brighton had a go at them. And I've said this many times, if I was a manager now, and I did because of the way Alan Morey was and the way David Pleat was, we would never do that. We would never go and set out to play for a draw or play defensive. Never. And Fabian did that on that afternoon, and I was delighted that they played well. Tony Bloom was going mad over a penalty decision. Tony, it was a penalty.
Seems to theme the penalties, doesn't it, this chap?
It was a penalty.
And before we let you go, Brian, I just wanted to ask you if you've got a favourite memory of the football club.
The favourite memory is winning at Newcastle that day, where we had to win on the last game, and as I said, I scored the winner. And when I say it's not a football club, and you get back on that train all the way back from Newcastle to Brighton, all the fans that are around the city, and then the next day round Brighton and everything, it's not a football place. It's a fantastic football place. It's a fantastic football club run by really special people, as it was in my day. And I think football clubs, successful football clubs, starts at the top. Don't start down there. It starts at the top, and if it's run properly and managed properly and coached properly, and that's for me, that's how it starts.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Brian, for your time. It's been great to sit down, and I wish it could have been a little bit longer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much. Great. Nice seeing you.